Greetings, curious souls and seekers of the strange. Tonight we have a rare and true account of unnatural phenomena, which features not just a single witness, but multiple. Chilling and outright terrifying, their story begins in their family home. Join me as we unravel yet another encounter from the cusp of the unexplained. Let's dive in. Dear number 11, I hope this letter finds you in good health. I write with a heavy heart and an urgent plea for your assistance. Our family home has become the site of a series of unsettling and inexplicable events, and I believe your experience with the supernatural might provide the insight and help we so desperately need. It began subtly about 3 weeks ago. My partner, Thomas, my daughter Amy and I were spending a quiet evening in the living room. It was a typical damp autumn night. At first, it was nothing more than a shadow flitting across the room, which we dismissed as a trick of the light from the flickering candle on the mantel. We laughed it off, assuming it was our imagination. But the following day, Amy was alone in the kitchen when she heard a distinct meowing sound. The peculiar part is, we don't own a cat, and neither do our neighbours. At least, not one that would find its way into our home. She shrugged it off, but the unease in her eyes was unmistakable when she recounted the incident to us. 2 nights later, Thomas and I were in bed when we both heard a scratching noise coming from the hallway. Thomas, always the logical one, got up to investigate, thinking it might be a tree branch against the window or some other mundane cause. He found nothing but silence and darkness. As he returned to bed, the scratching resumed, louder and more insistent. It felt as though something was deliberately trying to get our attention. The next day, while cleaning out the spare room, I stumbled upon an old, faded photograph. We had recently decided to convert the room into a study, and it was filled with boxes of forgotten items and old furniture. I was sorting through a dusty box in the corner when I found the picture. It was tucked inside an old book, as if someone had wanted to hide it but also keep it safe. The photograph depicted a woman, old and frail-looking, standing in front of our house. Her eyes were strikingly intense even in the faded image, giving me a sense of unease. The background was unmistakably our home, though the garden was overgrown and wild, unlike its current well-kept state. I showed the photo to Thomas and Amy, but neither recognized her. That night, I experienced my first direct encounter. I was reading late in bed when I felt a sudden drop in temperature. Looking up, I saw her. A spectral figure of an old woman standing at the foot of our bed. She was translucent, her eyes hollow yet piercing. I couldn't move or call out to Thomas, who was fast asleep beside me. She vanished as silently as she appeared, leaving me with a sense of dread and a heart pounding so fiercely it felt like it might burst. The next morning I was visibly shaken. When I recounted my experience to Thomas, his face paled. He too had seen her in his dreams, standing beside him, staring down with those empty eyes. We shared a look of profound fear, understanding that this was beyond anything we had ever encountered. Amy's experience was equally harrowing. She had taken to sleeping with the lights on, hoping to ward off the growing sense of dread. One evening, as she was preparing for bed, she saw the cat again, this time a spectral feline sitting on her windowsill, its eyes glowing unnaturally. She screamed, and when Thomas and I rushed to her room, the cat had vanished. The terror in her voice and eyes made us believe her wholeheartedly. Our home's atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive. Each creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind seemed charged with malevolence. I began noticing small things. Objects moved from their places, cold spots in various rooms, and a constant feeling of being watched. The old woman appeared again, this time in broad daylight. I saw her reflection in the bathroom mirror as I brushed my hair. She stood right behind me. I spun around, but she was gone, leaving only the lingering chill of her presence. Thomas, Amy, and I were now living on edge, perpetually exhausted and terrified. The constant tension was taking a toll on our mental health. Thomas, ever the skeptic, began to accept that we were dealing with something beyond our understanding. The scratching noises, the cold spots, the appearances of the old woman, all pointed to a haunting that grew bolder with each passing day. One particularly distressing evening, I was alone in the living room. when I heard the cat's meow again. This time, it was right next to me. I looked down to see a spectral cat sitting on the floor, staring up at me with glowing eyes. I blinked, and it was gone. The fear that gripped me was unlike anything I had ever felt. We debated whether the cat was real or a manifestation of our collective fear, but the question itself added to our distress. The pinnacle of our horror came one night when all three of us were gathered in the living room. The old woman appeared, more solid than ever before. She moved slowly, deliberately, across the room, her eyes fixed on us. We were paralyzed with fear, unable to move or speak. She reached out towards us, and just as suddenly as she appeared, she vanished. The air was thick with a palpable sense of dread and despair. Number 11. We cannot continue living like this. The constant fear, the oppressive atmosphere, and the increasingly bold manifestations are driving us to the brink. We feel hunted, haunted by an unseen force that seems intent on driving us from our home. Your knowledge and experience with such matters might be our only hope. Please, I beg you, come to our aid. Help us understand what is happening and how we might banish this malevolent presence before it consumes us entirely. Margaret, first and foremost, thank you for reaching out and sharing your story with us. The events you described, from the mysterious cat to the apparition of the old woman, are undeniably chilling and point towards a significant paranormal presence. The photograph you found in the spare room is particularly intriguing. It's often said that spirits attach themselves to objects, and finding an old photo hidden away suggests there might be a deeper history to uncover. This could be a key piece of the puzzle. Here are some steps I recommend you take immediately. 1. Document everything. Keep a journal of all occurrences. Note the times, dates, and any details you can recall. This will help us identify patterns. 2. Protective measures. Consider simple protective measures like salt lines across doorways or burning sage. These are basic steps, but can help mitigate some of the negative energy. 3. Research your home's history. Dive into the history of your house and the land it sits on. The photograph suggests a long-standing connection, and knowing more about past inhabitants might shed light on who this spirit is. 4. Seek professional help. While we can provide guidance, an in-person investigation by a reputable paranormal team might be necessary. To our viewers, we need your insights and experiences. Have you encountered similar phenomena? Do you have advice or theories about what might be happening in Margaret's home? Please leave your comments below. Your input could be invaluable. Margaret, rest assured, we are here to help. We'll be in touch soon to discuss your situation further and provide any assistance we can. The supernatural realm is complex and often frightening, but you are not alone in this. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to stay updated on our latest investigations and encounters, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. For now, until next we meet, keep your eyes open. Remember, when the lights dim and the shadows lengthen, don't look away. You never know what might be staring back at you. Good night and farewell.